questioning is really, really important, beloved. And if we pose questions to ourselves, and if we, I'm not going to pretend to you that I'm some person who's got answers. I know a man who has, and I'm constantly studying the man who has, and so hopefully whatever you ask may come as a result of something that he's been asked or something that I've heard him answer, and I will attempt to answer to the best of my ability. So I'm sure you've got a question, beloved. We haven't got much time, so any question from any sister, any brother, any question, anything on your mind, anything on your heart, something that's on your mind, something that's been going on, whether it pertains to the Nation of Islam, whether it pertains to the current situation with our people in this country, whether it pertains to Brexit. There are so many perplexing things which are currently ongoing that, if we don't have questions, what it probably means is that we fully understand everything that's going on. Yes, ma'am.
Just interested something.
Wa alaikum salam, beloved.
Just the impact of Brexit on black people, the full impact, and the ricocheting effects into the Caribbean. So that I just need a bit more meat on it.
It's a great question, and the thing is, you see, to really appreciate about this whole Brexit thing, first and foremost, what we've said from here before is that whether Britain leaves the European Economic Union or stays, black people will continue to catch hell. The far right and racism is on the rise in Europe, as it is on the rise here. It's the same. These Europeans, they are a family. And they're a family who have warred with one another. I think historically they had a 100-year war. They had a 30-year war. They had battles between France, Germany, Spain, Britain, you name it. They've been fighting each other for years. But one thing about Europeans is that they will join together, as they did in 1885 at the Berlin Conference, to carve up Africa and to carve up black people and to destroy us. And so what we have to understand, and one of the reasons in truth why from this podium we're saying Blaxit, in other words separation, is because Brexit is not going to be good for us either way. Doesn't matter whether they leave or whether they stay. And the fallout, because it's so divisive now, because the country is split down the middle, because the vote was 52 to 48, that's almost a down the middle split in terms of those who voted, because there are 66, 65 million people in the country. Approximately 17.4 million voted to leave, and 16 point something million voted to stay, to remain. And so, that's half the country. That's not the totality of the people in the country. That's around 30 something million people who made that vote. And so half the country didn't vote. But the point is that the country is now so split that whichever way it goes, whether they revoke Article 50 and they drop completely out of the whole Brexit process, there's going to be a lot of very angry people. If the Brexiters don't get their way and Britain doesn't leave and they put Boris Johnson in prison or whatever they're threatening to do, there's going to be a lot of angry Brexiters. If the Remain party get their way and Joe Swinson becomes the Prime Minister, the Liberal Democrats, and they cancel Brexit altogether, these are all the different elements. Believe me, there'd be probably something like civil war on the streets, because people are now very polarized when it comes to this argument. And if you witness what took place in Parliament the other day, the way that the Attorney General was speaking to Parliament with that gruff voice, you're a shambles, and you should be ashamed. And I mean, they're cursing each other. They're cursing Boris. Boris is, in his own way, cursing them back. And so, in answer to your question, dear sister, you know, as black people, I remember in the early 90s, one of the things that we said was, because at that time they were negotiating the peace agreement for Northern Ireland and Britain. And what we said was that it was essential at that time that as a nation we come together, and as black people we come together, because when they stop fighting in Northern Ireland, all of those security agents are going to be coming back here, and then they're going to be focusing on us, because they always need an enemy. And whilst they're fighting one another, it's our opportunity to unite, come together and do something for ourselves. And so that's how I would answer that. I really don't think it's got a great deal to do with us, other than it's an opportunity for us. While Satan cast out Satan, why they go to war with one another, it's our opportunity to come together and ultimately to affect Brexit, which is the teachings of the Most Honourable Elijah Muhammad, and it's called separation. Come out of her, my people. Yes, sir. Wa alaikum salam, sir.
On Brexit, I just wanted to know, what does it look like? And also, what structure or plans are in place to facilitate that?
Yeah, it's a beautiful question, brother. The brother asked the question, what does Brexit look like, and what plans or, you know, facilities are in place? Well, you know, first and foremost, it's here. That's where it must happen first. We have to come out of the mindset of this white supremacist system, this Eurocentric thing which was inserted into us over 400 years. We have to come out and then go in to the ark, which is the teachings of the Most Honourable Elijah Muhammad, or that which is called the Nation of Islam. We must understand that there's a safe haven in coming together as Muslims, returning back to our own nature. Because there is a character and there's a nature that we have as Muslims, which is righteous people. So the Honourable Minister Louis Farrakhan said that our righteousness will sustain us. So we have to renounce Satan. We have to give up all of those vices and things like that. I think I posted this on our WhatsApp group because I received something which was emphasizing how the Most Honourable Elijah Muhammad said that a handful of peanuts will take away 5 years of our life. And you know, from time to time, some of us may be still having a few. Look, beloved, it's just these little things that we just have to understand, that the teachings is right and exact. There's no lies there. And we have to learn to start to obey the teachings. 1 meal a day, regardless, you know what I mean? These little basic things, the foundational things. No drinking, no smoking, no fornication, no adultery, all of these things. Because as long as we are not in obedience to these things, we keep ourselves outside of the ark. We've not entered. Because it's not a physical boat. It's a spiritual, psychological frame of mind that we have to have. The Honourable Minister Louis Farrakhan said it like this. He said there's nothing more powerful than a mind made up. Once you make up your mind, do you know that people, they can't deal with a person who's made up their minds? See, when you've made up your mind, do you know that you don't argue anymore? Somebody could be, and because you've made up your mind, it's irrelevant what they've got to say, what they think they can do, because your mind is made up. And so this is where we're in trouble, and then from that, Brexit becomes a reality. Why? Because, see, beloved, honest to God, if we really knew our power, the Most Honourable Elijah Muhammad said that our unity is more powerful than a nuclear weapon. That's how powerful unity is. And I want you to imagine that this room is full of Muslims and we didn't have room for all the believers in here. See, beloved, some of the problems that we face today are because we're facing these problems as individuals. But you see, when we behave as a collective, you see, if the enemy thinks he can come after any one of us, it's a different reality when you've got a group when you have a community, when you can pool resources and you can secure a place that you can call your own, that you can enter 24 hours, 7 days a week, and nobody's got any right to. I remember we was in the base one day and one of the naughty believers' children decided to use the payphone that we had in the building. We had a payphone in the building and they called the police.
Yes, sir.
And the police came downstairs, and so we went down, and the police were insisting that they had to come into the building to see what the situation was. We said, well, no, you can't come into the building. And so they said, no, well, somebody's made an emergency call from the building, so we have to come. So anyway, so we negotiated. So in the end, we said, okay, fine, because there was a whole bunch of them. We said, okay, one of you, this is where you got power now.
Yes.
One of you can come in and we will escort you around the building to show you where to pay phone in and exactly what happened, whatever. And that's what happened, below. The person came in, we showed them around, so there's the pay phone. One of the children must have accidentally did it, whatever. They said, thank you very much, goodbye. When we were going to North America to Saviour's Day in '96, there was over 150 of us in the official delegation that was going. It was such an awesome thing, and we paid BA, I think, over £150,000, and they came to our base to check us in. We didn't even have to go to the airport to check in. They came and took our cases in a big coach, and they did everything. See, that's people power. And that's Brexit, that's Blacksit. That's how we come out of her. That's how we become an independent people where we're no longer subject to anybody's punitive practices or punitive laws. And that's kind of like what it looks like in the beginning, but you keep building on that to the point where you now purchase some land. We got some of these African nations now talking about black people being able to come back and maybe get land or whatever. There was a point where we were talking to the Zimbabweans, the ZANU-PF government, and they were talking about giving us land. We were talking to them as the Black United Front in this country. And they were serious about us getting land because we didn't voluntarily leave Africa. We were taken out in chains. So as a repatriation and as repair that they have to help us with as well, our people on the continent, these are the areas that we want to look at. We want land here. We want land in the Caribbean. We want land in Africa because the planet belongs to the original man. It's ours. And so, in a nutshell, brother, that's how it looks, but it begins with the mind and a unity. That means that, and I'll go a little bit further because, see, I'm going to be going to the reparations event shortly, and we are seeking to have unity with our brothers and sisters who are Pan-Africanists, and that we can work together and collectively do things together like we do on the march and whatever, and when we see them, we see our family. But at the same time, in the nation of Islam, it goes beyond that type of just working together unity. There is also uniformity, which takes it to another level. This is where now I want to look like my brother. And it takes it's a different, this is now where you get into the police and the fire service and any uniformed body. When you call the emergency services, they come in uniform. There's a reason for it. And we are in an emergency situation. We're in a crisis situation, so now you need soldiers. And all of the soldiers have to behave according to a military code of conduct. Because this is warfare. We can't, the Honourable Minister Louis Farrakhan said that business is warfare. So even, okay, a couple of you now, you're going to decide we've got our business manager here, we're going to go and open business. That business will not survive unless there's a uniform code of behaviour whereby we know that regardless, we've got to go and patronise his business. And regardless if anything or anyone attacks that business, we've got to be there to defend that business. That's how it works. And so, the key thing here, beloved brother, is it's a mindset, and it has to be a made-up mindset, not this thing where 1 minute we think one thing, next minute we think another thing. We've got to get away from that. Make up your mind. And then once you've made up your mind, make your word bond. And you will see difference. We will all see a difference in the way in which things will start to happen for us. It's one thing when I get up in the morning and I do my prayers, or you get up in the morning and you do your prayers. It has tremendous power. But when we start praying together, the collective energy moves on to another level. Assalamu alaikum. Did you? Yes, ma'am. Wa alaikum salam.
Brother Alvin, when he was opening, he spoke about 1914 being the end of Satan's rule. And recently, when Brother Minister Farrakhan spoke at Grand Rapids, he said that that time of mercy or grace is up, that end is now. Can you expand on that?
Yeah, praise be to Allah. And you know, the minister also said something in Grand Rapids that he reminded us of something that we've been taught in the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad for a long time, which is that the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad cautioned us not to pray for the end. Because he said, when the end comes, many of us and even members of our own families will be caught up in that destruction. And so, you know, beloved, God is merciful. I heard the minister, because you know, some of us, and it's like, you can't blame us. Some of us, when we learned the teachings for the first time and we got into it and we realized, oh my God, there is such a thing as divine retribution. And some of us in our hearts, we want the devil to be punished for the wickedness that they've done to our people. But I heard the minister break down on one occasion how, you know, to kill is easy. He explained how to kill is easy, but to give life is hard. And that God is more about life-giving than killing. And so even Satan, he gives him a chance. He gives him a chance. And for some of us, that's like, oh, don't give him no chance, just kill him. But we can't be like that, because each and every one of us, we're praying to Allah for mercy too. Not that we've been as wicked as Satan, but we've done stuff that we want to be forgiven for. And so therefore, we should not wish that God would not extend mercy even unto those who many of us believe don't deserve no mercy. And so that's why since 1914 till now, it's been what's called a grace period. But the grace is running out. The time is up. And the manner in which you and I are to do this work, we are to do this work as if it's our last day. Unfortunately, I look at some of the believers sometimes and I can see that we think we've got forever. And we think we can dilly-dally and mess about. It's not like that, beloved. We have to work cheerfully, and we have to work and move quick time, fast, in a hurry, right down to the modern time. That's my own version of what we say. Yeah? Because the time is up. And when the shock of the hour comes, the devil is not going to tell us that it's over, it's done. You will just wake up one morning and the soldiers will be on the streets. Yeah? And there'll be some huge explosion and different things happening, and then curfew, and you're not allowed out, and then you're trying to go down to the supermarket and white people will be there before you, I guarantee you. And you ain't getting no food. When white people are hungry, you are not eating, and you will not be able to compete. I was on the underground one day. I won't name the brother. He's a beautiful brother, lovely brother. But I was on the underground, and the trains, it was packed. And when the trains are like that, I wait. I'm a very patient, civilized man. And so I wait. I don't get into the push and the shoving. But I saw one of our brothers, and when the train stopped, he was literally trying to climb over the back of people to get onto the train. So I touched him, I said, bro, what are you doing? He said, come here, man. And he came and stood with me, and we waited for about 2 or 3 trains to go, and then it lightened up a bit and we got on. But that fight, you can't compete with white people in that kind of show. You remember when they showed you Black Friday and the people going mad over the television sets and they were smashing the TV, trying to rip it from each other and whatever? You ain't seen nothing yet, beloved. Because you're looking at black people doing that, but I'm telling you, you ain't seen white people when they think that they're going to suffer privation, especially when it comes to food. So we have to really prepare ourselves, and you know, brother mentioned the survival kit. That really has to be revived. We have to pull it out, dust it off, and take another look at that, and then start planning. And again, this is one of the reasons why it's so important for us to have a community, so that we can have a community survival kit in our own place. Yeah, but the time is up, and it's up to us to start behaving like we know the time is up. Not to be, for any of us to be in despair or down or acting like, oh, oh my God, what's going to happen? We're not like that. We, as Muslims, we have a smile on our face because the UFOs, they're not unidentified to us. You understand what I'm saying? The purpose of life. You know, you people, what's life about? What's it about? We don't have to ask that question. We've been given these answers. I came from Allah. We know, beloved. We know. We've been given the keys and the secrets to life. We know how to preserve life. We know how to reverse the aging process if we have the courage to do it. Look at this young man here. He was around in the days of the messenger of Allah, beloved. Look how beautiful he looks. And all of us can do that and be like that if we would only employ the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Not talk it, but actually do it. Praise be to Allah. Next question. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Also in Grand Rapids, the minister spoke about having a study group, and we're still studying. The only people in the study group is our families. Can you elaborate?
Yes, sir. See, beloved, the Honourable Minister Louis Farrakhan, the teachings are not difficult or complicated. One of the most difficult things in life to do is to be a salesman. People do courses where it costs you lots of money to learn how to sell. This is one of most people's pet hates. They're scared to death of selling, and this is why people teach it, because if you can become a salesperson, a master salesman or woman, you can be very, very successful in a world like this. Our problem is that we're not being asked to sell anything. But our problem is that we're treating the teachings, the Word of God, almost like a sales pitch. And so we are afraid to approach our people with the teachings. I'm talking about the brother and sister who lives right next door to us, who we've never even told that we're a Muslim.
Teach, brother, teach.
This is the problem that we have. The Honourable Minister Louis Farrakhan said that as long as we are like that, when we say I love black people, he said you're a hypocrite and a liar. Because if we really love them, we would never be afraid of them and to reach out and tell them what we have learned. But we walk past them every day on our way to the meeting, and we won't stop and talk to the brother, talk to the sister, especially if they look rough. Especially if she looks like she's selling herself every night for £5 a go. Especially if he looks like he's got swollen hands because he's injecting himself with heroin. Especially if he looks like he might turn around and cuss you. These are the people that we are charged with the responsibility to go to and encourage them to come to the meeting. But because we fail to do this, this is why, beloved, what was the original question in relation to, this study group that's still studying? Because, see, it's one thing to study the study guide. But then after the study in the circle, we're to get up from the circle and go out and do the work. And don't be afraid of rejection. The people will say to you, no, I'm not interested in that, mate. And as soon as they say that, we start fearing the next one. Don't do it, beloved. If you go to 10 people a week, one may say, yeah, man, I'll be there. We're saving souls, we're saving lives. But that's the mission, and that's the part that we don't do. Hence why the study group remains a study group. Because we are approaching it like, we're salesmen or saleswomen, and we're frightened to be rejected of that which we're selling. You're not selling nothing, beloved. You've heard something which is absolutely beautiful, which has benefited you, which has helped you. Why wouldn't you want to share that, irrespective and regardless of what the reaction might be? The minister says you go to the door with the final call newspaper, the man cusses you out. But you say to the man, have a nice day, sir. And then you go away. Then you come back another day, the man cusses you out again. You say, I'm sorry, bro. I didn't realize I was knocking on the same door, but have a nice day, bro. And you go about your business. The minister says, that man closes the door. The man says to himself, you know what? What kind of man is that? I cuss him, but he's so gracious and so nice. Because our people don't meet anybody who loves them that much. Because our people are in a terrible condition, beloved. I was with one of the Mohammeds, but remember, formerly Northover brothers. I was with one recently. And I was reminding him of a story, because we used to do, and all of us are going to have to do this again very soon, inshallah. But we want to do it when we got some guests in the house. What has Islam done for me? And one of the believers who came to West London stood up one day and was bearing witness to what Islam has done for him. And what he said was, it was one of the twins, one of the Northover twins, one of those Mohammeds who he met on the street. And he said the brother was so kind and so loving that he said, look, man, I just have to go and check this thing out. Because we just don't, especially as men, we don't meet men who are willing to even show that vulnerable side of themselves by being kind and loving to a brother. And so that's what I would say, brother. It's because we're not doing the work. We're really not doing the work. And if we must remember what we used to do before, because before some of us were good fishermen, and we have to rekindle that spirit and go back out and start fishing again, because that's all it is. The messenger wasn't lying, beloved. He said, my best followers are in the streets. They're all out there and they're waiting. They're just wanting to be approached and to be told something about what we know and what we have, and invited to a place where if they come in, then they would say, wow, this is something really beautiful. But as long as we are afraid, because this is fear, we're frightened of being rejected. See, people don't like to be rejected. People don't like to be rejected, but in this instance, it's not a real rejection, it's just a temporary setback, not that the person doesn't fully understand what it is that they're being offered. But we have to be persistent and more insistent than they can reject. It's like if you've got children. Your children, you watch the way your children will behave. They'll try and wear you down. You've got to be stronger than your children. Your children you'll tell them, okay, this is how we're going, and then you'll see them, they'll try and say, no, well, I'm going to go, and you say, no, we're going this way, and then they'll say, yeah. And then you see them drift again. But you've got to be more consistent than your child. You don't let them wear you down. And it's the same principle with this. It's like with the teachings. You know, some believers, you hear them, oh yeah, it's like I feel like I've heard it all before. Yeah, you may have done it. And guess what? You're going to hear it again and again and again and again. Because that's the thing with the minister. You ain't going to get the minister to change. The work has not yet been done. He's done his work, and he keeps doing overtime. But the reason he has to keep doing overtime is because those of us who he's been working on, we've had a bit of work done on us, and now we can't be bothered to do the work on others. It has to keep being repeated, beloved, over and over and over again. And it's the same principle in building muscle or building lung capacity or building anything. You have to repeat the process over and over and over and over and over and over again, and don't get tired. And every time, did you know that every time when I come to the front to teach, I can't come up here like, oh yeah, you know me, this is Brother Leo, I've done this before. No, beloved. Every time I come to the front, I've got to come like this is the first time I'm giving the teachings. With a spirit and a love and a passion and a desire like I've never given it before. I'll say words that you know you've heard me say before, but I'm saying it like it's the first time I've ever said it. Because that's the only way that we're going to be able to infuse that energy and that passion and that love into other people if we feel that it's new. If we feel energetic about it. But once we start getting tired, beloved, and we approach it in a tired fashion, no, we're wasting our time. We're wasting our time. And so that's what I would say, brother. It's about us going after the dead, raising the dead. Yes, sir. Wa alaikum salam, sir.
Just bear aware of what you're saying there. So the two dangerous things you could say is, I've heard it all before.
I already know it.
Because it don't matter, as I said, the amount of times I said, but one thing all that I was constantly listening to over and over again, constantly. And every time I heard it, I'm thinking, I don't remember hearing that bit. I don't remember hearing that bit. So every time that's what I say, if you close your mind thinking, oh, I've already heard it all before, you're already closing your mind off to learning.
Yes.
And in the same with like martial arts, you've got to keep doing that thing, just to keep on building.
Yeah. Because my son has got this punch bag at home, and I was asking him yesterday, which is your favourite punch? Which one do you think you've really perfected? And he was saying there's a little thing to the body that he does, and he says he thinks that's his best punch, that's his strongest punch. And I said, well, even if you think that's your best one, your strongest one, you do realise that you have to now take it to the next level and make it even stronger. He said, yeah, and he understands that, and it's all about practice and practice, the same thing over and over again until you ultimately perfect it. Brother Clint's been trying to teach us how to do like a left hook, and he's explaining how the shoulders got to be up here, this level, and then the fist is actually pointing down to the ground kind of thing. And these techniques, they're not, if you haven't practiced it, and if you can't be bothered to practice, you'll never learn the proper way to deliver a left hook, and it's just important, beloved, to understand that we're in a process of learning. That's why we're students. Minister didn't make a mistake. Some people think that that's past now, and we've gone beyond being. No, beloved, you're a student for life. We should be, one of the proudest things that any of us should want to say is, I'm a student. But some of us don't understand. Yes, sir. Wa alaikum salam.
I wanted to ask a question about supreme wisdom. Just wanted to read question 10 from the Gospel of Muslim, number 1. Question and answer. So it says, why did Muhammad and any Muslim murder the devil? What is the duty of each Muslim in regards to 4 devils? What reward does a Muslim receive by presenting the 4 devils at one time? And the answer is because he is 100% wicked and will not keep and obey the laws of his love. His ways and actions are like a snake of the grafted type. So Muhammad learned that he could not perform the devils, so they had to be murdered. all Muslims will murder the devil. They know he was a snake, and also if he be allowed to live, he would sting someone else. Each Muslim is required to bring 4 devils, and by bringing and presenting 4 at one time, his reward is a button to wear under the pedal of his coat. Also, free transportation in the Holy City of Mecca to see his brother. So, yeah, I just sort of need an explanation or your understanding.
As to the murdering of these 4 devils?
Yes, 4 devils. And also, in your opinion, what the best way to study the supreme wisdom is?
The best way, let's take the last part first. The best way to study the supreme wisdom is to read it. You'll be surprised. That might sound rudimentary, but first and foremost, we have to read it, and we have to read it, and we have to read it, and we have to read it, because just like what Brother Richard said earlier on, each time you read it, you'll get a greater sense of the wisdom, because there's wisdom that's contained and hidden within those pages of that very thin book. That's first and foremost. Supreme wisdom is something for us to master in terms of coming to grips and coming to terms with the wisdom contained within, that we have to implement and try to live what's on the pages, not reading it in its historical context of my uncle over there, but in terms of my uncle here and my own personal relationships with my family members today, and my own personal relationship with the reminder, that's the Honourable Minister Louis Farrakhan, with the messenger, the Honourable Elijah Muhammad, and God in person, Master Farad Muhammad. What's my relationship? And you don't have to have a relationship with 3 people. All you have to do is have a relationship with one of them, because all of their minds are lined up. When you're dealing with one, you're dealing with all.
That's right.
As far as the 4 devils are concerned, see again, beloved, I think I'm not 100% sure, but I do remember, I think it was said that at one stage in the early days, somebody took that literally and literally attempted to maybe go and murder some people. It's not talking about that, beloved. What the book is indicating to us is exactly what we were just talking about a minute ago. We have to go and get our people. See, the black man and woman who is currently walking about, and some of us, we're what's called little made devils. The first devil we have to murder is the devil of self. And we can't knock him down and get all happy. Yeah, look, I knocked you down. No, murder. Our sister Ava Muhammad said that one of the problems we have as black people is that we've lost our killer instinct, in that we will knock down our opponent and then we'll let them get up and come and fight us again. So no, when you knock the opponent down, you finish them. And that's what we have to do with the devil of self. We keep allowing, we'll defeat the devil of self in a 3-day fast, or during the month of Ramadan 1 year. And then no sooner is Ramadan over, we ain't reading no more Quran. We ain't praying no more. It's ridiculous, beloved, but you just defeat. See, that's like when I was smoking back in the day, and they locked me up. And when they locked me up, I went into this place, and in the place, the currency in the place is tobacco. The currency is tobacco. You got tobacco barons in the prison, and they hold people to ransom on the basis of tobacco dealing. So when I saw that, I said, boy, I ain't getting into that, man. I ain't gonna be holding me to the rest. I gave up smoking. Imagine, you give up smoking for over a year, you're incarcerated. I come out, some friend of mine offers me a More. So you remember More cigarette? The little thin brown one, the long brown one? Yeah, I know you remember. I'm looking at you. Oh yeah, start smoking. What an idiot. You're defeated. that problem, because if you could stop for that length of time, why would you go back to it, beloved? And so, those 4 devils, brother, every time you get a black man or a black woman into these teachings and you watch them, where is that thing that sister, you probably can't see it properly from here, but that image, beloved, you got the Most Honourable Elijah Muhammad here behind the black woman who's half naked. You got him here behind the black man who looks a bit trampish and a bit rough. And then you see the messenger, he's just raising them. And then you see the 2 of them standing facing one another. The sister sharp and beautiful in her MGT uniform, and the brother with his suit and business case. The reason why we wear a business suit is because we are to look busy and we are to be about business. And business is the life. It's the life. Business. If there's a man who's not involved in some kind of business or other, he's actually not living fully. And that business could just be going to work for a boss. It doesn't matter. As long as you're in some kind of trade and commerce, you're in some kind of business that brings in a little bit of money, it's worthy.
Resurrection of the dead.
But beloved, when you can take a brother or a sister off the street, bring them into these teachings, and you can watch them clean up their lives and make that transformation and become an FOI or an MGT, you just slaughtered the devil. You just killed the devil, bro. Yes, man, you just killed the devil. It doesn't mean when you bring them to the meeting that you've killed the devil. It means when they go through the whole process of transformation, you can stand back and you can say, because brother, you know, it's not a lightweight thing. Master Farad Muhammad said, I'll climb a mountain 40 miles high just to teach one. In other words, just to transform one. Be ye not conformed to this world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. That's now a God, no longer a devil. And so if we would do this, brother, if we would really do this work and allow the brother or sister, and this conversation came up recently about, brothers wanting to be married to sisters and sisters wanting to be married to brothers. See, again, if you bring a sister in, allow her to go through the process, beloved. Allow her to become a Muslim and an MGT. If you bring the brother and sister, allow him to become an FOI. Don't be trying to jump the gun now and you're marrying half a devil. Half a devil is just the same as a full devil, beloved. Yeah, allow them to go through the process and be fully transformed. And then they've still got work to do. How long have some of us been in this? Haven't we got work to do? Right, because the messenger said what? Devil overnight. We can turn back overnight. Because the pressures to conform is so horrendous, beloved, that we can't play with this. And so, in a nutshell, brother, that's how we kill those devils. And there is a reward if you can transform one life. I'm a little baby student in the teachings of the Most Honourable Elijah Muhammad, but I'm telling you, man, I go to my bed at night and I don't care what kind of problems. I got problems, I don't care what kind of problems I got. Most of my life I got a pride inside of me, man, because I know that Allah is using me to touch the lives of people that are not in this room. And I know that I'm maybe storing up some good for myself and for my offspring. Understand what I'm saying? Because it's a worthy thing to do to save the life of another human being. Yes, ma'am.
I think you might have covered a bit. When Brother's talking about the 4 devils, just remind me of the 4 great impediments that Minister Farrakhan talks about in the study guide. If we can think about the 4 great impediments, that's another way of killing the
Absolutely. Absolutely. And again, the ministers, these are like roadmaps. They're like signposts of things. If you can deal with those things in your life, then you're moving toward the elimination of that overall satanic mind if you can get rid of sexism, if you can get rid of racism, if you can get rid of materialism, if you can get rid of nationalism, this narrow-minded, because people, imagine, I want you to imagine something, beloved. Do you understand, beloved, that we need 50 to 100 Alvin Muhammad? Do you understand it? Do you understand that we need maybe only about 10 clips? No, because he's like the equivalent of 100. So we need about 10. We need about 10 clips. Yeah, about 10 clips. 15, 20, 30 Davids. We need, look, beloved, one is enough. We need a whole heap of Leo Muhammad's, beloved. Not just one, but this mentality that would have somebody like me thinking that I should be the only voice. It's sick. And then to go to the next level where I'm actually going to try and crush any other voice that I hear trying to come up. Minister Farrakhan is 100% diametrically opposed to that mentality. Do you know if the minister heard a white man teaching the minister's crying, but the minister's crying. If the minister heard an Asian man teach, the minister's crying. If the minister heard a Chinese or a Japanese or whoever. Do you know the minister would encourage anybody to go and do this work and do it? Just do it properly to the best of your ability. But when you see that mentality, beloved, that's trying to say, I should be the only one. That's a satanic mind. And what that tells you is that despite the teachings, oh my God, because you see at this point, that brown germ, beloved, we're supposed to fully understand it. And we're supposed to fully now be in control of it, whereby we can actually put it to rest. The Caucasian was made specifically to show us that dysfunctional, wicked, vomit side of ourselves, that we could say, oh my God, never will I allow that side of myself ever again to come into rulership. But some of us, beloved, by our behavior, I don't see nothing but a Caucasian. And that's scary when you've been exposed at the level that we've been exposed from the teacher who has exposed it to us. Because that man makes it so plain. Even a baby can't get it wrong. Yet you've got grown men and women who will still be full of hate for a fellow believer. And the minister, I ain't gonna get tired of saying this, man. The minister spends 24 hours, 7 days a week, even when he's ill and on his deathbed, trying to pull people out of graves and putting them on the ark. And no sooner does the minister turn his back than some of his so-called helpers are grabbing them same people and throwing them overboard. This is sick. And so, beloved, we got our work cut out. And I'm imploring you, family, to really, allow us to do this. It's not about Leo Muhammad. It's not about the sister in charge, Sister Sonia, or the brother in charge, Brother Clid. It's not about putting it all on one person. Stop it. Everybody's got to pull their weight. And when things go wrong and if things don't work out, you will only have yourself to blame. A lot of fighters who went up against Mike Tyson, they lost the fight before the fight begun. Because when they looked across the ring and they saw Tyson stretching his neck, and they realized that this man has been training. They looked at his body, they said, but he's going to kill me. But see, when you get in that ring, you ain't supposed to be thinking like that. You're only supposed to be thinking about, man, I'm invincible. You're supposed to be thinking about yourself like, boy, the way I feel now, I could break down a house. That's how you should be thinking about yourself. Why? Because you know you've done the work. But when you're going in there and all you can think about is the other guy, oh my God, you've already lost. And far too often I see our focus is on somewhere else or somebody else or something else, not on this. I'm going to come to you, brother. It's self-improvement. The basis. That's the very foundation, the very basis to community and buildings and development. Without the self, none of it. It's all pipe dream, beloved. So we can keep pointing the finger if we want at this person and that person. Oh, I don't like the way that sister and that brother and that person ain't doing this and why ain't they doing? No, what about you? Develop yourself. And when you become the best MGT, the best FOI that you can possibly be, beloved, you will see change. Because when you change, the world changes. But as long as you are expecting others to change, you're wasting your time, beloved. So I'm going to take the last question from my brother, then I have to go. Yes, sir.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam, sir.
Could you just tell us MGT, what it stands for, and FOI?
Yes, sir. It's a good question. The MGT is the Muslim Girls Training. And I'll just say very quickly on that a brother was questioning me one time in an interview. And he was suggesting to me, he said to me, don't you think it's a bit disrespectful to be calling big women girls? And I said, no, brother. I said, the reason for that is because some of us, as women, we can get to the age of 17 and start feeling jaded. I was in a school one day, and I was teaching young boys. They were 14, 15 years old. And I was talking about sexual relations and why they're not ready for that yet, and how there's a responsibility that comes with having a woman in your life as a man, that kind of relationship. And one of the little 15-year-old brothers piped up, well, too late for me then, sir. Like he was so far gone in his sexual relations with girls or women that at 15 years old, too late for me then, sir. You know, I've gone too, see, he's 15, beloved. He hasn't even begun to live. And I wanted to just slap him and say, brother, just wake up. We could be 40, 50, 60 years old, and we can turn this thing around. And when you have a woman who formerly lived her life in that crazy, wicked world out there, and she chooses now to turn her life around and come and give her life to God and the service of God, she becomes a little girl again. So the scripture says, lest ye be born again, you cannot enter into the kingdom of God. Yes, you become a child again. See, you know, I refer to my wife as my girl in the house. It's a secret. Don't tell her that I've told her. Yeah, but that's my girl, beloved. I don't care how old she gets. She's always going to be my girl. You understand what I'm saying? She can't call me her boy, because then we got fighting. I'm a man. But that's my girl. And I've got little girls at home. But it's really important that we understand that MGT is Muslim Girls Training. And GCC, because they've got like a double barrel thing going on, the sisters. They've got MGT, GCC. And the GCC is the General Civilization class, where the sisters learn how to cook, how to sew, how to act at home and abroad. So they learn some rudimentary and basic principles about how to conduct themselves as women that if they conduct themselves like that and anyone should ever interfere with them or do any harm to them, as men in the FOI, we are charged with the responsibility of killing such a person. Because that's a righteous woman. And so the FOI is the fruit of Islam. We believe that many, many years ago, let's say 1,400 years ago, the seed of Islam was planted. When Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, received the revelation, which is the Holy Quran, he planted a seed. Today we believe that that seed germinated and has grown a tree, and now that tree is producing fruit. And we are the fruit of Islam. In other words, the end stage. From this stage, we can only go back to seed again. And we are now going to produce new seeds, which will produce new trees and new fruit. So that's what it means, the fruit of Islam. Thank you for your questions. May Allah bless you. As I greet you in peace, assalamu alaikum.